not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous about recording this episode because I feel like it might be a little bit controversial to some listeners, but I do feel like it's a very important message. So I must spread the word. Hello, my lovely humans. Welcome back to Safe Space with Kira Graves. I am your host, Kira Graves. Duh, it's always going to be me. And this is my 5th episode. Holy shit. I am so proud that I was actually able to get this far in my podcast. Like I said in previous episodes, I put this podcast off for so long just because I was so scared of like sharing my views and really getting my voice out there. But then I realized how important it is and how fulfilling it is when I do it. So alas, here I am. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. I really hope you've been enjoying this series so far. I have been enjoying it so thoroughly. I feel like I finish every episode realizing that I learned something, because when I talk, I don't really speak from my brain. I speak from like the universe. I allow the universe to kind of like speak through me and allow whatever message that like the world needs to hear to come out of my mouth. And it's very like unrestricted the way that I talk. Anyways, today we are going to be talking about trigger warning childhood trauma. And I really want to put this trigger warning here because I don't want any of you to be listening and for this to spark something negative in you. I will approach this topic as lovingly as I possibly can because it's a very, very difficult subject to talk about, but I do think it's important, so I'm going to talk about it. Okay. Oh my God, where do I start on this? I want to talk about like the role of parents and how in my life, my relationship with both of my parents have changed a lot in my 20s. I'm 23 now, turning 24 next month. And I'm just reflecting back on how my relationship with like my blood family has really shifted over the past few years. And the realizations that I've come to, I want to talk about that. Also understanding my own past and how it's affected me now in my 20s. Oh, I'm already getting hot. I'm going to take this off. I feel like this all started last year. I was filming a movie and one of my coworkers was reading this book. It's called The Body Never Lies: The Lingering Effects of Hurtful Parenting by Alice Miller. This book I really just stumbled upon. I had no intention of like picking up a book like this, but for some reason when I saw my fellow actor reading it, I was like, oh, I'm very interested in that subject. I didn't necessarily think I had a relationship to the subject, but I was like, ooh, this really intrigues me for some reason. So I followed my gut instinct and I bought the book and I read it last spring, I believe. And after I read this book, it kind of got the wheels turning in my head. It kind of sparked a new journey that I embarked on last year and that I am still on. I probably will be for a while, but it's all about finding empathy for myself and my inner child. So a little bit of background on me, I guess, if you don't know me and this is your first episode or whatever, if you need a recap, I'm always here. I grew up feeling like I have nothing to complain about. My childhood was perfect. Nothing went wrong. I kind of had this wall up. And I was very, toxically optimistic about everything and wasn't willing to look at my pain and my darkness. And so I was kind of like masked over by this for a while until about last year when everything cracked open and I finally recognized all the pain and hurt that I've been carrying in my body and in my soul for 22 years. And a lot of it has to do with my childhood and things that happened in my childhood. And I'm not going to go super in depth to respect the privacy of my family, but my parents divorced when I was 4 years old. My dad left the house when I was 3 years old. And that was also at the time when my whole family moved from Sault Ste. Marie to Whitby, Ontario. Good old Whitby. And I lived in Whitby up until I was like about 18 or 19. And that's when I moved to Toronto. So basically, I was raised primarily by my single mom. And I saw my dad just, once a week or so. A lot of stuff happened that I didn't know had a lasting impact on me. And I feel like reading this book, The Body Never Lies, was like the first indication that, oh, maybe I do have some traumas. Maybe I do have some childhood traumas. And I was just like avoiding it for so long. And I was also like I said, putting up a wall, especially too, because, I was like, well, I had a roof over my head, I had food, I had, all these things. So therefore, I have nothing to complain about. And I was kind of like comparing my situation to other people's situations, which is like never a good idea because it just diminishes and you're basically like just dismissing everything that you've been through. So I don't recommend doing that. But I also understand that it's our body's survival techniques. We want to be able to survive and live without having to confront these things because they're very painful. Moving on. I read this book, and it's basically about how your body holds emotional trauma that sometimes will manifest in the form of a physical illness because the pain has nowhere to go and the pain just gets stuck in the body. So this is kind of what this book is about. And it's also about, actually largely about how, when we're growing up, and honestly, whether you're religious or not, we were all kind of told that our blood family is, everything. That our mom and dad are the most important people in our lives. And honestly, for a while, they are, or your caregivers, whoever, helped you get from point A to point B, from birth to where you are now, whether you're in your 20s or 30s or teens, whatever. Your parents were very important in those formative years. And parents aren't perfect. Parents are humans. And I truly believe that they're always, at least in my experience, my parents did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had with whatever they were going through at the time. And they were going through a lot, both my parents, when I was born. I was born 8 years after my older sister. And it was kind of a surprise. I think when I was born, when my mom realized she was pregnant with me, it was a surprise. Like, they weren't really expecting me. They weren't planning me. I just popped up and I was like, hey, I'm in your belly. I'm in your uterus now. They decided to have me. And that also came along with everything else that both of them were experiencing in their lives at that time, which was a lot. And so they raised me in the best possible way that they could. And I truly believe that. But obviously, parents make mistakes, and sometimes that can have a lasting impact on the child, and it hurts to go back into the past. And I don't think that we should live in the past 24/7, but it is important to reflect and introspect. And that also comes with having compassion for ourselves and empathy for ourselves and understanding for our inner child. And this book talks about how you can connect with that inner child and truly understand what they were going through. And then you will get so much more clarity on how that's affected your body and your spirit now as an adult. So as I was reading this book, I was like, I don't know how I relate so much to, some of the stories and anecdotes in this book. Why do I really resonate with this right now? But I kept reading it, and I've been on this healing journey trying to fucking get my mental health under control. So I read a lot of books, a lot of self-help books, psychology books, trying to understand the brain and how the brain works, and also how the brain develops as a kid. childhood psychology is such a fascinating topic to me. So I kind of dove into it and started reading a bunch of books on it. And it really helped me understand my own brain and how my body responded to the circumstances of my childhood. In about November, and I'm not sure if I've talked about this on the podcast yet, something cracked open. I don't know if it was a panic attack, but it was almost like a recalling of a feeling of when I was a baby or a child, like maybe a toddler about 3-4 years old. And it was really random what triggered it. And I was at home and I started going into a ball up against the wall. And I went back into my child mind. I felt and had flashbacks of what I felt back then. And I couldn't even figure out what exactly that event I was recalling was. What I was feeling was a feeling of being violated, a feeling of having no control, of being helpless. I think I really, really disliked being a child because I couldn't control what happened to me. I couldn't control how I was treated. Anyways, I had a flashback, recollection, whatever you would call it, and it was terrifying. It was terrifying. Like, I have not felt such sheer terror in a long time. And I didn't even know what was going on. I was just crying, hyperventilating. I sounded like a baby. Like, I sounded like a child. I was like whimpering and shaking my hands and my body, and my whole body was like quivering. And it was very scary. Luckily, Lauren was there to kind of just like sit with me through it. Eventually, I got past it. And ever since that day in November, I've been trying to understand what that was and what it meant. It's March now. It's early March when I'm recording this episode. And in my understanding, what that was me connecting with my inner child. That just told me that my inner child was frightened and scared and terrified to be in this world. And that was the first moment I actually realized, oh shit, I have childhood trauma. It makes so much sense now with all the mental illnesses I've had to deal with, and I developed them at such a young age, and I didn't understand why, and no one really understood why. But that moment was really eye-opening for me. I finally saw eye to eye with my darkness and my pain and my deepest fears. Looking back, I'm so grateful that that happened, because ever since then, I've been so much more kinder to myself, so much more understanding, compassionate, empathetic, loving all the parts of me. Not just the happy, positive parts of me, but also the really dark parts of me. I truly believe that when this happened back in November, I was ready. I was ready for it. I was ready to experience it and go deeper. And I think that I didn't understand my traumas until then because I didn't feel safe enough to. And I think that once we feel safe, we can finally look at all the scary parts of us. Once I felt safe enough in my body, in my home, in my mind, I was able to, and I subconsciously asked for that realization to happen because it led to greater spiritual advancement and healing of my mental health. For those of you who don't know, I live with my partner, Lauren, and I moved out of living with my mom when I was like 21. And I honestly feel like once I was able to put distance between me and my family and my childhood, I was able to open up all the avenues of healing. This is the kind of like controversial part that I was talking about, but I do feel like it's really important. Growing up, we're taught that, blood family is everything, right? If we don't have anyone else, we have our blood family. But in a lot of cases, our blood family does not have the best intentions for us. Our blood family maybe doesn't love us unconditionally, right? Maybe they love us conditionally. as long as we are perfect enough, as long as we meet their needs and what they want us to be, who they want us to be. So let me just talk from my own personal experience and the experiences of my close friends. So me and all my close friends have a lot of trauma. A lot of us have PTSD and issues with our families. I have seen and experienced firsthand that once there is distance between you and your blood family, you are able to really understand what went on in your childhood and kind of think for yourself, and you aren't being influenced as much by your parents. And you can kind of create your life for yourself now. And if you really work on it, you can rewire your old beliefs. So for example, maybe one of your parents told you that you weren't good enough when you were younger. Maybe there was just a sense that you weren't good enough. We tend to carry our parents' voices in our heads as we get older, and those become our own thoughts. And we become hateful towards ourselves. We criticize ourselves all day long. We don't maybe have belief in ourselves because our parents didn't have belief in us. I've realized that I had to rewire a lot of those old beliefs and messages from my childhood if I wanted to live my fullest life and do what I wanted to do in this world and in this life and thrive, right? Not just survive, but thrive. I started looking at like all the messages and the beliefs that I picked up as a child, and I started looking at them and being like, do I truly believe that this is true? Do I truly believe I'm not good enough? Maybe I did for a while. After a while, I realized that's fucking bullshit. We're all good enough. We are all enough as we are. We are perfect. We are imperfect, perfect human beings. And anyways, long story short, healing these childhood patterns and really looking at it for what it was is very, very important for us to thrive as adults, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And sometimes that requires us to put a little distance between us and our family members. And it doesn't mean that we don't love them. It doesn't mean that we want to cut them off forever, unless you do, which is also very valid. I think we need to normalize disconnecting our relationship with our blood family, because for a lot of people, continuing that relationship only creates further damage to you, your physical body, your emotional body, and your mental health. And I'm not telling anyone what to do, okay? I'm just planting a little seed, a little thought. And if any of this doesn't resonate with you, I'm not offended. You do you. But I've just found that breaking down the old, thou must respect and obey thy mother and thy father in the 10 Commandments, believing in that is potentially harmful. And if you're interested in learning more about this, I recommend this book, The Body Never Lies by Alice Miller, because it goes into much more detail on that. There is no shame or wrongdoing if you need to take space and time away from your parents or your family members to heal. You focus on you first and foremost. You focus on your well-being, your mental health, your physical health, your complete whole health and fulfillment. That is your number one priority. I want you to thrive. I don't want you to just be in survival mode. So put your own healing first. And if that means putting distance between you and your family, do what needs to be done. Reuniting with family can be really triggering for a lot of people. Christmases and holidays are so stressful for so many people. And it's because like people have worked so hard to try and put distance between like their childhood and what happened back there to now. And going back in that environment can easily put you back in your child's shoes. Find your chosen family. Find people who love you unconditionally for your good, your bad, your dark, and your light. Find people who are willing to really, truly listen to you. and not try and change you. I feel like this is pretty common in the queer community because, a lot of us have been estranged from our families because of our sexual orientation or gender identity. And we're already kind of like, I feel like queers just have like a certain level of understanding of this. A lot of us have had to find community and family in other people that aren't related to us. And that is fucking cool and valid and awesome. Find people who you can be your most truest and most authentic self around. And people who don't try and change you, but love you for everything that you are. Because sometimes our blood family do not do that, unfortunately. And they don't deserve to have you if they make you feel like that. They do not deserve to be in your life if they are treating you like that. Okay? You deserve much, much better. You are moving on and you can create a new reality in life for yourself at any moment. You can start now at any moment to choose yourself for a change. A ton of people do this, especially females. They care about everyone else except themselves. They're always looking out for other people's feelings except for themselves. And I am telling you, put yourself first. It's not selfish. It is honestly the most loving act you can do. And once you love yourself deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, you can love other human beings deeper and deeper and deeper. But it starts with you. You can't love someone super deeply if you don't love yourself super deeply. And I know this sounds like a cliche because everyone fucking says this and it's in every like Facebook quote, but it's so true. And I have lived experience of that. Now that I love myself even deeper than I did like a year ago, I am able to love my partner so much more. I am able to understand and love my cat so much more and my cat's traumas and her anxiety, just allowing for my loved ones to exist because I allow myself to exist just as I am. So I allow everyone else to just exist and I don't try and change them. Whew. I hope that you got all the way through this episode, and if you didn't, that's perfectly okay too. I know that this topic is not for everyone at every moment in their lives. I feel like sometimes we have to be at a certain level of like safety in order to accept and take in this information. And if you're not, then that's okay. But just know that like at whatever stage in your healing you're at the right place. You're at the right place at the right time. And if you are listening to this podcast right now, you are on the right track. You are so loved. You are enough and you are loving yourself more every single day. And the fact that you opened yourself up to even listen to this podcast is a massive, amazing accomplishment. I am proud of you for how far you've come. I'm so proud of you for everything that you've done. And just remember, you have gotten yourself to the place you are at today. No one else. You are in charge of your own destiny and your future. No one else has the authority to dictate what you do and who you are in your life. Only you. You have all the control to change whatever you want, keep whatever you want, accept whatever you want. And if you are not at the place where you want to forgive yet, your family, yourself, that's okay. We are not always at the place where we can forgive our family members. But even if you have that little inkling of, I'm willing to forgive, maybe not today, but I'm willing to forgive, maybe in the future. And that's all you need to do is just have the intention of being willing to forgive. You don't have to know how to forgive people. You don't need to forgive people now in this moment. You don't really need to do anything to forgive. You just need to be open to it. Forgiveness frees yourself up. It frees up space in your heart. And it doesn't really matter if that other person knows that you forgave them. And it doesn't really have an effect on their lives. But forgiveness ultimately helps you in the long run. So I've been using the mantra, I am willing to forgive a lot. because I don't want to hold this hurt in my body and in my mind and in my energy field any longer, because it's only doing more damage to me. And that's that. Oof. I love you. And I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And I will see you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And take some time for yourself today in whatever capacity. All right.